Yes, people. What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Saeed TV. We are live for the Late Vibe show. We're discussing all things Manchester United. And we have with today, we got man like Statman Cam in the building. How you doing, Cam? Everything all good?
Yeah, good, man. Nice to be on. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, man. Not too bad. In the midst of everything that's going on with Man United, we've got, you know what I mean? We're coping well, man. Life is all good. You know what I mean? Sunny, pleasure to see you again. How are you, mate?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on again. I mean, I could do another bank holiday, I can tell you that much, because in the office today, I was just there like, Jesus Christ, this is a long weekend, could do with another one, but we're here to talk Manchester United, so blessed to be here. And of course, everyone in the live, make sure to smash a like. It doesn't cost you a penny, as Saeed said as well, so make sure you smash that like button.
Yeah, definitely, man. Make sure you hit the like button, people, man. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And listen, we've got a lot to discuss, you know. Varane's injury setback, possibly. I don't know whether we can confirm that as of yet, but, you know, we heard some rumours around maybe a 6-week layoff for Varane. Cucurella agreement has been brought in as well. Bits on Hoiberg and what we're doing really in this midfield market. Only 3 days left to go, people, in this market. 3 days. The market will be shut for Manchester United and they have to get going. You know what I mean? I still think there's key positions that United need to sort out. But we are looking to get man like Marco Cucurella from Chelsea. United have reached an agreement in principle with Cucurella on personal terms. Green light arrived on player side. Manchester United won't negotiate for another left back for now, as they want to get Cucurella deal done with Chelsea ASAP. I'm gonna start with you, Cam. I've got a different opinion to most people. I'm not really a fan of Cucurella, be honest with you. But what are you saying? Right profile, best we could do, better than what United fans think he is. Where's your opinion on Cucurella?
To be honest, I was the same as you when I first heard it. I was thinking, God, this is terrible news, because he's like, there's a lot of things that United need that I don't think Cucurella offers. So I think the physicality that United desperately crave in so many positions all over the pitch, he's not the man to bring that at all. I think we're already pretty weak in the air. He's not going to help massively with that. I think there are some positives, though. I don't know if it's me basically resigning myself to the fact that we're signing him, so I may as well try and find something good in it. Or
might as well. Yeah, of course.
It could be that. I think what he has got is that technically he is very good, and I think it's tough to judge players off a season when the whole setup's dysfunctional, like it was at Chelsea. But he is good technically, and he will try. I think he will help us lose the ball less, which is important, because I think we give the ball away far too much at the moment, and that's one of the reasons the defence is under so much pressure. So if we can keep it better, maybe we won't be under anywhere near as much pressure. So I think that will help. I think he's probably better at inverting as well, which is a nice thing to have, because Shaw's not the greatest at it. So that's something that's maybe even an upgrade on Luke Shaw when he inverts. But yeah, overall, it's not the most inspiring signing, but I think a lot of people, when I've been tweeting about it, whether it's been a good or bad side of him, people have reminded me it is a loan. And as you said at the start, there's 3 days left of the window. There's not that many better players out there for no money when we desperately need midfielders. And by the sounds of things, I've seen a tweet from, I don't know if he's any good as a source, but apparently there's a few midfielders United are looking at that that haven't really been mentioned at all yet. So maybe a bit of a surprise at the end of the window.
Yeah, listen, I think, someone say there, Sam's to say there, don't get the old negativity about Cucurella. It's a loan. He fails and he goes back to Chelsea. Listen, I always think, though, sometimes, is loan an excuse to kind of not give your opinion about a player, though? I always think to myself, like, I get it, it's a loan, but can we still not judge a player on his ability? Because he's going to be here, for 6-7 months. What even more than that? It's practically 9 months of the season. So I get it, it's a loan, and he could go back. But at the same time, we are going to have him. So, I mean, you'd rather have something that's a good loan. But at the same time, given the context of what Cam said, there isn't much options out there. Sadi, I come to you. Are you a fan of Cucurella? His qualities. What are you saying?
I mean, if we go back to his Brighton days, he was definitely a very good player. There's a reason why Chelsea got him. Obviously, last season wasn't really it for Cucurella, but like Cam said, when you have a loan and you need a position to be plugged, it's not the worst decision. I mean, you're talking about loans, and there's a Manchester United loan that came in around 2007, Henrik Larsson. He was a loan. He's revered around Manchester United. So this notion that a loan isn't necessarily the best thing is slightly flawed, not from you, but just people in general about, we can't really judge him. I mean, we had Sabitzer for a bit last season. Obviously, he didn't work out. We weren't going to sign him. I'm happy we didn't sign him as well. With Cucurella, we've got him for pretty much the whole of the season. We needed a player, let's be honest there, because I don't think Fernandes was getting promoted from the academy. Malacia, God bless Malacia, but I've not been his biggest fan. I know he's young, but you got to give these players time, but he's not really set for Manchester United, in my opinion. I said it last season. I mean, I know Charlie's not here, but I always said to Charlie whenever he used to go to Manchester United, I'm not a fan of Malacia, and there was a reason why. So I'm happy that we've gone for Cucurella. I think people need to give time. Let's be honest. You never know what a player is going to be like when he sets foot into your doors. If he turns out to be dog shit, then fine. But if he turns up, then people are going to be like, "Oh, what an absolute amazing, magic trick there from Erik Ten Hag." So let's give the boy some time. He's got a lovely bonnet, that's definitely for sure. So that's something that he definitely is going to bring to Manchester United. Lovely locks, but let's give the guy some time. Let's see what happens. If he turns out to be great, then fine. What an absolute amazing, magic trick, like I said. But if he doesn't, then it's a loan. So what? We move on. We go from there. But one thing I think Cam said, which I did like, is the inverted aspect. And I know Ten Hag's trying to do this. We got a team that we're playing on the weekend who have started to, employ this invertedness. I mean, I'm not doing maths or anything, but inverted, outverted, we're talking obtuse, acute angles, whatever. At the end of the day, if it means Erik Ten Hag can get his style of play implemented a bit better this season, then let's go for it.
Yeah. Big up to Michael saying, can you take Hoiberg off us, please? Listen, I've been watching that Tottenham game and it's not been good reading in that regards. But the reason why I think for me, why I've been kind of almost hesitant about Hoiberg is that, again, it's more towards what we lack more than anything. Because I don't think it's about the signing and the actual principle of bringing a loan in. A loan is, again, it's not a permanent fix. I'm just kind of looking at what is Cucurella. And if people understand Cucurella and what he is as a player and how he kind of operates, I think he lacks the physicality in there. I think in transitions, he could get beat. I think 1v1, I think when you can isolate him, I think that's a weakness of his as well. I think on the ball, though, don't get me wrong, he is great. But with this Man United team, yes, on the ball, they're not great, and that is an added bonus. But off the ball, in terms of our physicality, that's where I worry for Cucurella. Again, there isn't a much out there that we can possibly get. But my bit is the worry about in terms of physicality and how weak Man United are. I don't know about you here, Cam, but I looked at Man United and I said, Man United are probably the easiest team to play against in terms of, these little 1v1 physical moments, 50-50s. They don't not seem to be sharp and snappy, and win that ball and kind of assert the authority. Are you in that kind of camp as well, as you mentioned before?
Yeah, definitely. But I think there's a bit of a misconception there in terms of just because we don't necessarily have the biggest players doesn't mean we can't be physical. I think even with the players we've currently got, we could be a lot more physical. The issue is that obviously conditioning-wise, they're not there yet. Fitness isn't great. They don't look like they're ready for duels. And if you look at the City team, there's not many players in there who, before they joined City, you'd say were going to be great pressers. They're going to be great in the duel. They're not going to get beat very often 1v1. But actually, there's a lot of them that have worked really hard. Fitness is fantastic, and they know exactly what they've got to do when City lose the ball, so that they are actually quite good in the duel. So I think there's a lot that United sort of coaching staff can do to improve what we've got. But yeah, at the moment, there is a bit of a lack of physicality there. I think it is more fitness. And it is also partly the tactical side of things where until Dalot started inverting this week, we were really, really having problems in midfield because it was just Casemiro by himself. Now, everyone's blaming the midfielders for that. It's not all the midfielders' fault. Defence wasn't pushing up enough. Forwards weren't being disciplined. All sorts of that going on. And I guess Cucurella does sort of help with that. But yeah, physicality, he does lack it. The one thing defensively he does have, though, he can defend the channels a lot better than Martinez. And he's got the pace to sort of help him and cover him, where at times this year, Leach has looked really exposed.
Yeah, that's another thing as well. Lissandro's in that area. He's having to cover two people, and I think obviously Dalot in that role hasn't worked out. He was absolutely fuming on the weekend with Dalot just not being able to kind of cover his position, in that regards. So let's see what he's about. Let's see what he can bring us and give us that balance because, like you said, the role the inverted role is a difficult one. I think Wan-Bissaka, again, not the greatest in that role as well. You know what I mean? So it might give us a balance on that left hand side where Rashford might need Sane because, like I said,
Mm.
on that left hand side, Mason Mount as well might be on that side as well. He knows him from his Chelsea days. Maybe it's to help as well, Mason Mount in that regards. When he does come back, he has got someone that understands his game a little bit, even though they've been together 1 year.
Yeah. But I think one thing that you've said there that does, give me, have alarm bells ringing is the fact that he's going to be playing with Rashford a lot. Now, we know Rashford doesn't track well whatsoever. And if you're going to be leaving Cucurella exposed 1v1, that is asking for trouble because I don't think he's the best one-on-one wise, to be honest. And obviously, Cam mentioned about the duels as well. That's the one thing that, let's say Man City, for example, Bernardo Silva came in. You wouldn't really think he's a player that's going to be that strong in the duels, that physical. If you see him over the last couple of seasons, he's very, very strong. He wins most of his duels for a reason. So coaching is one aspect, but I think that left side, him, Mount, Rashford, can I honestly think that's going to be something that can be successful this season? I don't think so. It remains to be seen. I hope it is. But the physical aspect is one thing I'm worried about because even Cam said it. Leacher this weekend, if he gets exposed against Saka, that is trouble. And I know he just won PFA Young Player of the Year, so he's going to be absolutely gassed. But listen, we all know Sai's been hit in the gym. I think he needs some training sessions from you to get his physicality up because, boy, he needs to put his muscle on. I swear to God.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, that defense is worrying. I mean, we've got the news. Varane could be out for 6 weeks. That again, I think that was always a fear though with Varane over the course of the season that we were going to probably lose him at some point, but I didn't think this soon. This soon, man. Like genuinely, man, it's a big blow. I think he's been our best defender this season, guys. I'll be really honest with you, man. I don't know what you guys think, but losing Varane is a big blow. I think Martinez is not there yet in terms of what he was last season. I think he's well below par. I can admit that, and I'm a big fan of Martinez, but he's not been there. And Varane has been our biggest outstanding defender. And boys, it is a big blow if he's out for 6 weeks, and you don't know how he recovers from that as well. You don't know. You then have to kind of make sure he's okay. So that's a big blow, guys, man. Varane's out.
Massive blow. I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. Cam definitely agrees as well. Varane has been our best centre-back. But in a weird way, it's kind of, God works in mysterious ways. Maybe, I know you're not his biggest fan, Saeed, but Harry Maguire, in a weird way, it's worked out him staying because we're going to need numbers. If he's out for 6 weeks, right, I think Lindelof probably comes in, let's say, against the Arsenal. But what if something happens to Lindelof and we had no Maguire? Do you know what I mean? Like, I get this policy we've got is 1 in, 1 out, which I don't agree with anyway, but fine, this is where we're going. But in a weird way, Varane being out for 6 weeks means that we actually needed Maguire just for the numbers. So, if he's out for 6 weeks, there's no guarantee that he comes back and he's going to be match fit. And then what's to say he won't get injured again? So it's going to be tough, man, especially Sunday. We've got a lot of players out. And I know obviously Arsenal had that 2-2 against Fulham, but the players that are going to come in, it's going to be tough, man. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, listen, big up. Amor says we're linked with Kim Min Jae and and we get Sergio Bob.
PSG.
How big of a blow is Varane? What are you saying, Cam? Varane being out. What are you saying?
It's a huge blow. He's been so important this season because it's so even 3 games in. It'll probably take a lot longer, but I think so far we've been so sloppy, giving the ball away so many times, and that's put the defence under huge pressure. Varane is always the one covering. When Leach has been slide tackling in the air and getting sucked into random duels in midfield that he shouldn't be sucked into, getting spun really easily, Varane's been the one covering every single time. When someone's given the ball away, Varane's the one dropping back to cover them. He's a huge miss because that's his skill set. He's not the best in possession, but he's a lot better than people give him credit for. I think a lot of people, particularly on Twitter, people are very quick to criticise Varane on the ball. He's a lot better than anyone thinks. And what he's good at specifically is that where Maguire will sort of slow the play down, Varane's always moving the ball, even if it's just from one foot to the other, side to side, always moving the ball. Something might open up for him. And if there's nothing that opens up, he'll move the ball to the next centre-back quickly, which is it's important for United. And I think he's one of those players that you really can't replace because he's that good defensively. And what he's got in possession isn't that bad. I think Lindelof comes in. Hopefully we give the ball away a little bit less. But defensively, he can't match what Varane does. He doesn't have the speed to cover the ground. No. He can be really aggressive, which is good. He's shown that as he stepped up in the last 6 months or so, which he'd never had before. But hopefully, the only thing we can really hope for is that Lindelof gives the ball away a lot less, which sort of partially makes up for the covering that Varane used to do. But Varane's the best in terms of emergency defending. When the team's in panic mode, someone to cover the space, cut out the cross, stop the shot. Varane is one of the best in the world. Casemiro on top of his game is brilliant at it as well. But without Varane, when we're making this many mistakes, it's going to be a long 6 weeks.
Yeah, spot on, man. Listen, I think Varane's one of our main kind of leaders at the back as well in terms of what he's given us. And listen, we were always going to get this, man. This is why United needed to go and get an extra centre-back. Obviously, the Maguire situation is a pain. I don't really blame the club in that aspect. Well, I probably do. Because I'm like, was there a situation where United could have maybe stopped him from going to pre-season tour and maybe told him to stay at home, and that would have maybe forced him to kind of move onwards? I think that could be a possibility in that regards, But ultimately, Johnny Evans has signed a new deal. That again is not for me good enough. It's a big blow, man. We've got Usman in the building here. Big up Usman. What are you saying, bro?
Yes, boys. Good to be back.
Yeah, man. We're just talking about the Varane injury and how much of a blow it is for Man United. I was just saying, like, we should have been able to kind of get a backup. We should be able to get someone in there. Lindelof, for me, like, this is what everyone says. He's not that kind of person to step up. Had you said a Todibo, had you said another player, Kim Min-jae, they would have been ready and there. I don't think everybody has that confidence in Lindelof. I think for one-off, maybe a couple of games in the season, yeah, but not as a mainstay for 6-7 weeks at the start of the season as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Maguire, so he's still there, so that's always a positive. I mean, look, at the end of the day, like I'm sure you guys have already addressed, like Lindelof, to be fair to him, was absolutely phenomenal come at the back end of last season. And obviously, you kind of said that, you don't expect him to step up, that kind of thing. He kind of stepped up when it really mattered. I mean, when he actually put in his best performance in the United shirt, for me personally, is when you get judged as a player in the business end of the season. I mean, he essentially got us top 4 alongside some of the other players, but he was absolutely sensational. You could argue he was probably our best player, if not within the top 3 in terms of consistency, week in, week out. It was absolutely unreal. We were playing 3 games a week at that point, and he didn't drop it lower than 7 for me. So, although I do agree in terms of, long term, we can't really do it. He's proven it when it matters. So, look, by all means, he's more than, deserving of his opportunity to stay at Claim. But the issue with Varane is obviously his injuries. I mean, he's been great this season so far. Obviously, there's not been that many standout performances. But just in general, I just think he's really helps us in so many different facets that we're going to miss massively. I mean, aerially, of course, he scored the goal. But in terms of defensively, we're a very short team. We're a team we're not particularly physical as well in both boxes as well. Varane alongside Casemiro are realistically our only physical players within the team that are starting week in, week out. We're now missing Varane. Is Lindelof known for his aerial prowess? Absolutely not. It's one of his weakest attributes, if anything. And that is where I'm more worried, rather than obviously some of the other factors of what Lindelof brings, is the fact that we're now in a situation where we were potentially getting bullied, but Varane was somewhat taking us out of the opportunity. Obviously, he was, dealing with a lot of the corners, etc. But we're now in a situation that Lindelof has to take that mantle, and that is literally Lindelof's weaknesses. I mean, the amount of times we've seen him get bullied, obviously sometimes by fouls, etc. But in general, he gets bullied a lot in the air, and that is a major concern for me. And I've always had that thing with Lindelof. He's not particularly aggressive in the challenge. He's not particularly, he can look fragile at times, basically, what I'm trying to say. And that's not what we needed to replace Varane. We needed someone that's going to come in and basically bring what Varane does, which is his presence, his ability in the air. He's good with his feet as well. But yeah, it's going to be a massive miss. But we're going to get exposed from set pieces, basically. Casemiro is literally our only aerial threat now, and apart from Casemiro, it's looking a bit bleak, to be honest.
Sleepy Hollow, thank you for the super chat. Goes, the fact that there's been so many high-profile injuries for every club when the season literally started is genuinely concerning. Yeah, it is. But also the strenuous season with players are playing 100 minutes now a game. So, like, we played more than that. Did we not play 115 or something? I don't know how much minutes we played, but we played McTominay played 25 minutes and he only came on last 10 minutes. So it's crazy how that's happening, man. But I don't expect Man United to go and buy a centre back. It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? I just know what Man United are. You know what I mean? We're not going to do it. Johnny Evans is that extra centre back. Maguire is that extra centre back. It is, guys, man. This is it, man. We've got Champions League coming up as well, man. It's not good, man. It's not good enough for me, man. This football club should not be having Lindelof and Maguire still here at the football club. And listen, Lindelof, you can sell him as a squad player, I get it and whatnot, but he's now also become the main guy to kind of, you know what I mean? Like, I think it should have went past that stage now where we're relying on Lindelof after 7 years still at the football club. It should be someone else in there trying to take that mantle in that kind of way, not Lindelof, not Maguire, I think that's where my head is at, man. And boy, it's another injury. How many injuries have we got now in the season right now? So it's Malacia Shaw. Who else is injured?
Mason Mount.
Mount, yeah. And obviously Hoyland's still not back yet. You know what I mean? In terms of we don't know what's going on with him. You know what I mean?
As well. Martial after the Arsenal game will be injured as well. So there's quite a few, to be fair.
Yeah, it's bro. Like, you know what's mad as well? Like, what is up with Malacia? Like, what is his injury? Like, why have we not heard anything from him? He must be a long-term injury as well. Like, I don't understand that. What's his injury?
He just can't carry the burden of playing for Manchester United. It's simple as that. It's like, no, I don't know. Like, obviously, I'm not trying to shit on the guy at the end of the day. He's playing for Manchester United, but I don't know what it is. I never rated him to begin with. You know what? At this point, just give Fernandes a go. If you're gonna play Malacia, what have you got to lose playing Fernandes? Realistically, what have you really got to lose?
A lot to lose. A lot to lose. That's what we got. We got a lot to lose, mate. You know what I mean? That's the problem, man. We have got a lot to lose. I don't know. I think right now it's got to the point now where you have to pray that the manager's tactics are going to hold us down. And I'll be honest with you, Cam, I'm not really sure if I can believe in that. Like, away from home, I think at home now, I'm starting to just not see. I think against Nottingham Forest, I like the fact that we didn't rush things and we kept doing our thing. But do you think with the manager and what he's trying to build and what he's trying to build a style of play now, do you feel more confident? Because I don't feel more confident. I just feel like, you know what? Bruno might turn up. Rashford might turn up. And, I don't know. How are you feeling about the way we're kind of playing? And is it conducive for the players? Is it, what do you think?
Look, it's not looked great at the moment. And 3 games in, you can't say it's been perfect yet. I don't think anyone's saying that. I think we hear all the time all over the place that Ten Hag's been here over a year. Why can't we see any signs of progress? You can. If you know what you're looking for and you understand the way Ten Hag operates, you can see it everywhere. I think the structure that Ten Hag tries to implement is very clear all the time. What makes it a little bit harder to see is that because there's loads and loads of fluidity within it, the players that are in each of those roles are constantly changing. So sometimes the back 3 might be Wan-Bissaka, Varane and Martinez. Other times there'll be different players in there. There'll be different players in midfield. Sometimes there'll be fullbacks. Sometimes one of the centre backs might step up. Sometimes one of the forwards might drop in. There's constant rotation. So I think the Forest game showed for 70 minutes, 75 minutes, it showed that there is a lot of good stuff that Ten Hag's done. And when the United team are able to get the ball in the opposition's half and retain possession, they know what they're supposed to be doing and they can execute it. The reason it was much easier against Forest, though, was because the Forest team was so passive, didn't have any interest in pressing at all. So we didn't really have to worry about that bit of getting the ball from our own third into the opposition half. That's the bit that's caused us problems so far. And the reason it's caused us problems is because Ten Hag isn't Guardiola. Guardiola says to his players pretty much, he doesn't want them going long, really. Up until they signed Haaland anyway, he's got his players playing technically, so they only play short passes, which is great. The problem is Ten Hag wants to keep that option open as well. And as soon as you keep that option open, you give the players the excuse that they can go long. Now, in Ten Hag's case, he wants to build the best transition team in the world. So you need to be capable of doing both, which means it takes longer for the players to adapt because they're looking for the long pass as well as the short options. So it's that bit of getting over that pressure in our own third, being able to build up when the opposition midfield aren't just passive and let you walk the ball up to the halfway line. That's what we've got to improve. Once we do that, you can see what Ten Hag's trying to do in the final third. You can see these players that people are saying aren't very good, Antony, Jadon Sancho, those sorts of players in particular, they are very, very good when the team has a lot of possession high up the pitch and they can sustain their attacks. They're not very good when they're deep on the pitch. They've got to attack big spaces by running forward because they're not that explosive. It's the exact opposite for Marcus Rashford. And that's why some games last season, when we did have a bit more of the ball, we're left there saying, well, hang on, Rashford might have scored, but he didn't really do anything else, or he didn't score today, he's done nothing. It's the same patterns over and over again. When the team are high up, sustain their attacks high up the pitch, Rashford doesn't do that much in the game because that's not his game. He's good when there's lots of space to run into. Likewise, when we're deep, can't get out of our own third, can't get out of our own half, Antony's not going to be as effective. Sancho's not going to be as effective. So it's getting over that little bit of an issue, getting the ball forward, getting the ball high up the pitch. Once we do that, which I think realistically, by the time we get to the new year, the winter break, I expect to see United putting in much better performances, much more controlled performances where we can genuinely go and control a game for 90 minutes. At the moment, it's been, I think the Forest game was the best because they sat off us, but outside of that, it's been 20, 25 minutes, half an hour. I think that's the difficulty. Getting everything put in place will probably take until Christmas, until the new year. And once that happens, that's when you'll start to see United really springboard up to the next level under Ten Hag.
Yeah, listen, I don't know. Osman, do you agree with that? Are you obviously the team now? Obviously, we've not got the greatest confidence in our balance and maybe the depth and maybe certain personnel people are not happy with. Do you think the manager, knows what he's doing here? Do you think, obviously, is he going to be stubborn? What's your feeling towards what we're building right now? And obviously the transfer window coming up as well. Like, are you starting to feel agitated? Because a lot of the fan base are, you know what I mean? They are feeling a bit agitated.
Yeah, I mean, Cam made some fantastic points, obviously, regarding certain players better in different scenarios. I mean, I think that's definitely true with a lot of our players. I do think, we constantly putting our players in positions where they're not potentially going to flourish. I mean, I think Casemiro is a great example of that currently with the midfield setup. I mean, I'm one of Casemiro's biggest fans. I think I came and played the season last season. He was absolutely phenomenal. But essentially, he's always been a destroyer. I mean, he's absolutely world-class at what he does. He's not really been that kind of player like a Busquets, so to speak, that can, obviously read the game and obviously thread that pass through. I'm not saying he's not capable of doing that, but 9 out of 10 times you wouldn't want him to do that, or he hasn't really done that in his career. It's always been a Toni Kroos or Luka Modric next to him. And understandably so, he played that 5-yard pass, and obviously they'll do the rest of it, so to speak. But for me personally, it goes throughout the team. Obviously, again, obviously referencing what you said regarding Rashford. Obviously, he's way better in transition. Obviously, his explosiveness, of course, running into space, that kind of thing. But yeah, in terms of just with Ten Hag, for me, he just needs to find a balance. I mean, I think with a lot of players, obviously, I think Antony is particularly in the team for balance. I'm someone that doesn't particularly want Antony to start, but I do understand why he is playing, in some games, because obviously his ability off the ball is something Sancho is not renowned for. I mean, he's not particularly good off the ball. Rashford's not particularly great off the ball. Martial's not particularly great off the ball. So them three would be my ideal front three, but are we going to really win the ball high up the pitch with them three on the pitch? I don't really think we are. Obviously, Antony definitely has that ability to win the ball high up the pitch, which is why he starts. And I do think that's something that, me included, we need to start to understand more and obviously try to understand why he's making the decision. I think, pardon me, I think where the frustration comes from is the fact that he refuses to drop players that aren't performing. And I think that's why I always get frustrated with the manager, be it with Ali, be it with Jose, whoever it may be. You saw it under Jose, who persisted with Sanchez and Lukaku when it wasn't working, obviously under Ali, Rashford, etc. I mean, Ali had so many as well. Every manager has it, we know that's a thing. And I do think Ten Hag has that stubbornness as well. And I think that is potentially going to be his Achilles heel. And he definitely needs to get to a situation where he's just selecting players on merit rather than, players for potentially, obviously, based on what tactically. I mean, understandably, you want to pick players that help the system, but for me, if for players performing better in a 30-minute cameo against Wolves, i.e. Jadon Sancho, surely you'd start him over Anthony. I mean, Sancho for me alongside Eriksen were two most key players in the reason we got that 3 points against Wolves. I mean, they kept the ball, they kept it ticking, they moved it through the thirds very efficiently, and that was not happening prior to their involvement on the pitch. And neither of them started, which for me was absolutely perplexing. I just couldn't understand why neither of them did enough to get a start. And I think for me, that's where the frustration comes in. Obviously, I understand what Anthony brings to the table, but if he's not performing and Sancho's come on for 30 minutes and outshone him, surely Sancho should start. And same with Eriksen for Mount. So it's little things like that he definitely needs to fix. Whether he does that or not remains to be seen. But it's a long season. I mean, there's going to be lots of ups and downs. But yeah, the board have to bring him in players as well. I mean, if we don't bring in a centre mid and a CDM or like a Gravenberch, Amrabat, someone of that ilk, then Lord have mercy, it's going to be a very long season.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about next, man. But guys, make sure you like the video, people, man. There's a lot of people here, so I mean, there shouldn't be an excuse for you guys to not hit the like button. It doesn't cost you a penny, and yeah, it helps the algorithm, people. So hit the like button. Midfield, man. Sani, talk to me, man. What are you wanting out these next 3 days? Midfielders, what's your issues? What's your concerns, man? Because I ain't gonna lie to you, man. Bro, Hoiberg is not the answer. I've been watching Tottenham just before. Very, very slow, very, very pedestrious. It's not looking good, man. Amrabat still waiting. Does Man United want him? Is it now left back, then move over to centre mid? What are you saying, bro?
It's not looking good, Brev. That's what I'm saying, because the thing is, we needed a midfielder this whole transfer window. Let's not create a lie or create a narrative that we didn't, because we have, man. Like, yes, fine, we have been that team that wants to play in the transition. I said it a couple of weeks ago as well. That's what we're going to be playing this year. But if you can't control a game, how are you meant to create the chances, especially away from home? That's going to be our biggest Achilles. We only picked a point, right, up against a top 9 last season. That was away at Spurs, who, let's be honest, didn't have a good season, right? That is crazy. Yeah, fine, it's early on in the season, and Erik Ten Hag needs time. But if you can't go away from home and keep the ball even for 5 minutes, that's going to be a big problem, especially when you have players like Varane that's getting injured, right, that can somewhat, tackle against that pressure. There's going to be a problem. I think if we can get an Amrabat in, I don't think we're going to get him in, to be honest with you, but if we can get him in, that'd be a good signing. Why we haven't got him is ridiculous. Hoiberg, I'm not interested in him. Yeah, fine, he did a job for Spurs. But the way Erik Ten Hag moves with these players, you never go back to your ex, do you? Once you've gone past your ex, you delete the number, you move on. This guy just keeps going back, and I'm like, mate, just move on. Let's go for a player that can actually, you see something, and you're like, you know what, this guy's actually going to do a job for us. If he gets Hoiberg in, I won't be shocked, but I'll be like, why don't we just go for Amrabat? Amrabat's there begging for us, let's be honest. He would love to play for Manchester United, and so would we. But if we don't sign, like Usman said, if we don't sign a midfielder in that can control the game for us, we are in some issues because we're getting sliced way too open. I know Cam mentioned a very good point about Erik Ten Hag needs time, and yes, he does. But this season is a litmus test. The only thing that I think us Man United fans are kind of guilty of, not all of us, but to a certain extent, is because of how good Erik Ten Hag had in his first season. He made top 4, he won a trophy, he did well in the other cup competitions. It's kind of given a false perception that Erik Ten Hag's this guru that's going to, solve all our woes. But it's a project. This year, he definitely needs to show his style of play. And if he gets that somewhat implemented after Christmas, then fine. In a weird way, this international break that's coming up is a blessing in disguise for us, if we're real, because it can mean that Ten Hag can go back to the drawing board, see what he's working with, and try until I think the next international break's November. Let's see, pull another 6-7 games together, see what we're working with, and go from there. But if we don't sign that midfielder, boy, we're in trouble. We are in trouble.
But this is it, man. This is it. And listen, I think these comments are just going to be more and more common. And big up to Colin. Hoiberg's a very good player. If I was a United fan, I'd rather him as an option than nothing at all. I think this is the issue with maybe our perception of what we think is good enough at Man United. Yes, a player may be okay as an option, but it shouldn't be that option. You know what I mean? For me, you should stick to the plan. That's what I would say to my United fan. Stick to what we know. Don't let the Glazers fool you into thinking there's no money, there's no this, there's no that. We have to work with what we've got. Like these buzzwords, I'm sorry. Stick to the plan. Stick to what the manager is looking out for. It was De Jong. It was this. It was like for me, stick to the plan, and I just don't think Hoiberg is the answer. Again, I just don't think he's the answer.
No,
You know,
that's what
Cucurella, you
happens.
can find ways and be like, you know what, technically, he's sounding in
He's
the
not good
inverted
enough,
commas.
man. He's not good enough. That
If you
guy,
pre-
Colin, he's got to be a Tottenham fan. That's the only reason
But
he's
this is the
put out
thing,
there.
right? If you prepare to fail, you fail to prepare, right? So if we're going into the season, we're
There you
still
go.
having these questions that need addressing. Where's that coming from? Do you know what I mean? And it's a shame because there's a lot of promise going into the season, and like 4 games in, fine, it's early on in the season, I get it. But seeing the way we're playing against teams that, let's be honest, we shouldn't really be getting dominated against is alarming. But let's give the manager time. That's what we need to do. Hopefully he works it kind of all together. And that's the other thing as well. He hasn't got some of his players. Like Hoyland is a striker. We can definitely do with him because if you look how many chances we created, we've big chances missed. I think we're like 3rd or 4th. We're
second in all the big attacking
right,
stuff.
biggest chance created, right, second, right. Bruno, for example, if you look at players, I know Usman's not Bruno's biggest fan, but say what you want, right? He has created the most big chances, right? His expected assists is the highest as well. So you can't say that players aren't creating chances for us. We just need something just to work. And I think then the players, and I think even the fans as well, will have a bit more confidence with this team.
Yeah.
So just to add that, and obviously regarding the Hoiberg thing, right? I just think it's absolutely embarrassing. I really hope it's just paper talk because there's no way on God's given earth that you can twist this in any way, shape, or form to basically make this a positive signing. I mean, 35 million, right? Amrabat is 21 million. Cucurella's low. Let's just say we agree 5 million for the sake of conversation.
Yeah.
That's 26 million there. So technically, you can get 2 of them. Obviously, Cucurella's wages come into the place. Yeah, I understand that as well. But then you've got Gravenberch, who's available for loan as well. So you could technically get Amrabat and Gravenberch, or you can get Hoiberg. I mean, Gravenberch, for me, our fans are massively overlooking him because I actually think he's perfect for what we need. I mean, he's one of the only players available to us that can actually carry the ball through the 30s. Fantastic. And carrying the ball from deep. This is something we do not have since Pogba's left the club. I'm not saying he's on Pogba's level by any stretch of the imagination, but he's someone that can carry the ball. He's very prominent in the middle of the field. He's got a good range of passing, and he's available on a loan. I mean, I'm sorry, that's a no-brainer to bring him in Amrabat. It's actually mental because, hypothetically speaking, obviously I'm not Cucurella's big fan, but I'm sure you've already talked about that. But if we bring in Amrabat and Gravenberch, our whole demeanor is going to change towards the season. We're probably thinking, you know what, we should easily be top. We could potentially even go for I know it's going to sound ridiculous, but with the fact that Arsenal aren't currently flying, we don't know what's happening in Man City. I'm not going to say that, but we could at least be in conversations. Like, we're at least challenging or competitive. We have a style of play. We have a player in Gravenberch who's very versatile. We could be in a situation where Amrabat, Gravenberch, and Bruno start. I mean, we have options, but I don't know. This is really frustrating because, like, that Gravenberch deal is an absolute no-brainer for me. It really is. I think he brings so much to this team. Obviously, Hoiberg doesn't bring anything that we don't already have for me, so it just doesn't make any sense, to be honest.
Yeah, no, big up, man. Zamias is here saying, hi, will Hoiberg, Cucurella cope with Saka, Martinelli, Rice this weekend? We'll find out. You never know. They could be playing this weekend. That's the scariest thing about it. You know, they could probably play this weekend. That back line could be Varane, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Martinez, and Cucurella. That could be the lineup this weekend. You don't know yet. And obviously, it could be Hoiberg in the middle. Obviously, I doubt it because I think Eriksen should keep his pace in there, ahead of Hoiberg. But listen, that's the situation right now. And for me, the window, when you look at it as a whole, I think it's very, very underwhelming, man. I know we got, Onana in. Hoyland is still potential, so you can't really judge it. Mount, for me, wasn't fancying. Obviously, the manager's choice on that one. All of a sudden becomes an underwhelming window in that regards, and that's where I think a lot of the United fans, I go to you, Cam, where this was meant to be the window where I think we kind of filled up key positions, and you know what we said, this is where we're going to now take the next step. And does it feel like that to you, though? Does it feel like United have took the next step in that regards?
If you asked me that earlier in the window, I would have said yes, because one thing we've struggled with for a very long time is getting the key targets in early before the start of pre-season. We managed that with Onana. I think Mount was in pretty early. Hoyland wasn't that early, but he was like not that late. But he was before the season started, I think, wasn't he? Or was he just after?
Yeah, it was. It was
before the
Yeah.
season started. So for me, that was progress. But the bit that gets me, I think, is that this transfer window perfectly exposes the issue at the club. And I don't think the issue really is on the footballing side. I think you can there are criticisms that you can make of people within the footballing structure, but I think it points you to the issue being the owners, because once you've made those 3 signings straight away, the club know that more players are needed. That's very obvious. I don't think there's a single person in the football hierarchy at Manchester United that is happy with the squad in the current state it is. You can see that because of the constant links with different players. You can see that with the briefs that Erik Ten Hag wants 3, 4, 5 new players. You can see that in the fact that the current football director, technical director, whatever his proper title is, Murto. He's previously the guy who signed Pellistri, he signed Ahmad, he signed Garnacho. They know that there's bargains out there. The scouts aren't out there doing nothing. The problem is there's somebody at the club who's stopping them getting in these players. The club are aware of these, all the various talent in South America, around the world. They keep tabs on these players. Of course they do, because the reason we know that is because there's people that are much better than any of us, anybody in the comments, anybody that we have probably ever talked to. There's people that know football way better than any of us working at the club in those positions. They don't sit around all day doing nothing. They're being obstructed in some way from signing the players that they want to see. Now, for me, I think Erik Ten Hag, there's no way that he's said, when Chelsea are signing Caicedo, Arsenal are signing Rice, midfield players for over £100 million, there's no way that Erik Ten Hag said, no, I don't want to go and spend £120 million on those players. I want to spend less than half of that on Mason Mount. Somewhere within this, the club are stopping him spending big money, but they don't want players that are under the radar commercially.
Let me ask you a question though, Cam. So where's the sticking point then? The manager worked with Overmars. Obviously, I had a chat with the Ajax fans, and they come together. So they don't just decide one or the other. They come together and they make an agreement. Do you think Ten Hag trusts Myrtle to kind of make decisions and probably find out solutions for him? Or does he think, you know what? I don't think we're in alignment in terms of our philosophy. I'll take the most of the lead. And this is where, majority of the signings are coming from. They are people that he knows of. So that's where a lot of people... Yeah, go on, sorry.
Yeah, I think there's 2 things with that. I think you're right in the sense that I think Ten Hag wants to take the lead. I think partly there's a little bit of a disconnect between Murto and Ten Hag. But that's not the worst thing in the world, because the footballing director should have a bigger picture view than the manager, because he should still be there when the next manager's in place. He should be the one choosing the direction of the club as a whole. So I don't think there's an issue with a bit of a disconnect as long as they can talk about it. I think the reason Erik Ten Hag is so nailed down to his particular targets is because he has to fight for it to get the board to approve it because of the owners. I think the only reason stuff's getting done at United is because Ten Hag is insistent about that. And I think that's why he looks a little bit more tired, a little bit more frustrated in all the press conferences, because I think he's having to fight for every single thing that happens. We saw the rumours about the chill out room they wanted at Old Trafford for the players to sit in before games. Mourinho had asked for that. Van Gaal had asked for that. Other managers had asked for that. But the one to get it done was Erik Ten Hag. Now, maybe that's Richard Arnold coming in for Ed Woodward. He's maybe giving the manager a little bit more power. Whatever it is, I think there's some issue in the club with the owners not wanting to do things that don't directly impact the club commercially in terms of signings. So they want big names or players that they've heard of before. And they don't want to spend ridiculous money because the Glazers don't have ridiculous money, and they don't put any of their own money into the club. Anyway, even if they did have ridiculous money. So I think the reason that Ten Hag is so wedded to his own target is because he's the one that's having to go in there in a room with, or on a call with Joel Glazer. Obviously, he's going to have to wait till 5 p.m. every day for them to wake up in America or whatever else is going on. And he's going to have to fight for everything himself. I think that's what's going on. I honestly don't think that it's all the footballing people completely on a different page to Ten Hag. I think the reason is because basically Murto, as far as Richard Arnold and the Glazers are concerned, they can just tell him to shut up and ignore him. If the manager's threatening to walk or saying, I need this, it's a little bit harder to ignore that, because if Erik Ten Hag walks out, everybody at Manchester United know where the problem lies. And that would spark an even bigger wave of protest than anything we've seen.
Yeah. Listen, I think for me, that's where a lot of it comes down to, with people saying, oh, Ten Hag's talent ID is awful. And I think you tweeted something today, like, a club has to work together. And I think that's what people are not understanding. And maybe there is things that we don't know that's happening behind the boardroom. Sani, I'll come to you next, but maybe there is things happening. But I mean, has the talent so far ID been for you good enough? Like, have you thought it would be better? Do you think would have maybe scouted different leagues, different markets? Better quality of signings. Obviously, a lot of big money signings been made, but nothing of use at the minute. What are you saying about that?
It's one of them ones, isn't it? If we look at the players he signed, which ones have really, would you say, been a success so far? I mean, Lisandro Martinez, obviously. And I think Casemiro, to an extent. Would you say that Eric's Ten Hag signing? Probably not. Mount, unproven. I think, he still needs some time. Hoiberg, unproven. Onana, I think he's a good keeper, but again, you can only really assess him at the end of the season, see what impact he's actually had on Manchester United. I wouldn't really count the likes of Malacia, if we're being honest. So I don't know, man. Like, I mean, I don't want to talk about Anthony. I know Cam was talking about, you need the right sort of style of play in order to unlock some of these players. But what I've seen from him, I'm not his biggest fan. But at the end of the day, if he proves me wrong, I'm more than happy for that to happen because it means Manchester United do me well, right? So I don't know, man. Like, some of these players, I just think I get, players that are certain ilk. Like, I mean, Mourinho done it when he came to Manchester United. Who did you bring? Matic. He knows what he's like. Some players you just know are going to do a job for you. You bring them in. But I think all this idea of bringing players that you've worked with all the time, it's not always really going to be a success. If we're being honest, I mean, Pep went to Bayern Munich from Barca. The only one I think he signed was Thiago from Barca.
Yeah.
I don't think he
that's
signed
right.
anyone. Did he? Right. So this is a manager that has been revered for a decade, at least, probably longer. And if he's not doing something like that, then it does make you question, Ten Hag. If he's signing these players, it's on him. You can't say it's not on him because he's wanting these players. He's very insistent. What Cam said is right. Very insistent manager.
Yeah.
But if he's insistent on these players, it's on him for him to make it work. Yeah, fine. He needs the right side of players and other players that need to complement them. But it's on him. And that's one thing that Ten Hag can't evade. But let's see, end of the season. I think you need to judge them at the end of the season. Right now, some of these players, I don't think they're working out. But let's see what happens end of the season. Once he's got the right players in the right position where everyone's fit, then you can have a conversation whether his ID is actually good or is overrated.
Yeah, listen, I think obviously the jury's still out, innit? It's still start of the season. You know what I mean? The players have to, you always kind of see maybe second half of the season, as Cam says there, you might see a development and evolution of these players. But you know what? I just for me, that midfield area needs to be sorted out, man. It's probably one of the key areas of the pitch that I think, you can't neglect, man. You know what I mean? It's just such a key position. And obviously McTominay should have went. Donny should be gone by now. I think that one is still, again, just, I don't know what's going on with that situation there. Is it the fact that maybe Real Sociedad don't want to pay the full wages? They don't want to buy. They want to buy him. It's just maybe they want a loan. It's a lot, man. You know what I mean? And obviously, Amrabat is still there. Like, Osman, do you think in the next couple of days, like, we're gonna get something? Because every day goes by, and you normally see a bit of progress in it. You know how with the Onana one, there was a bit of progress. Like, there's no progress. Like, normally you see something going on. If it's a loan, it's easier. But if you're buying someone, you to negotiate a price that might come back and say no. Like, need to get a move on, man.
Yeah, I mean, the Amrabat one does actually really worry me because obviously the personal terms were agreed ages ago. I mean, it's come out from multiple credible sources that the personal terms were agreed late June. I think Ornstein said it recently as well, and I know Fabrizio as well. But that, the terms were agreed. So for me, I don't think we put in a bid. So obviously the terms were agreed a long time ago. I don't actually think we put in a proper bid for him. So that is where the worry is. I mean, why would we wait until the last week to put in a bid? I mean, a lot of people are saying it's because we had to sell to buy, which is fair enough, I guess.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're talking 20, 25 million. You're telling me Manchester United don't have 20, 25 million available. I mean, it's just baffling. I just find it hard to believe. I mean, McTominay for 30 million could have been sold. If you really wanted Amrabat, we basically blocked that move for McTominay. So I just don't really believe a lot of the stuff that's going on behind closed doors. I do think Amrabat is someone that Ten Hag potentially may be interested in, but I don't think the club have given the green light for it. I mean, that deal he should have been ready for pre-season, not even the first game of the season. He should have been on that US tour playing, like, and basically embedded into the squad. I think that was one of the easiest deals we could have done. I mean, we've done the the Hoyland deal was obviously 70 million or whatever it was. The Mount deal, they were both very expensive deals, tricky deals to do. There was a lot of negotiations going back and forth in terms of the price tag. There wasn't really that much back and forth in terms of the price tag. I mean, they essentially asked for 30 million euros, and we didn't really need to take them down that much. Potentially, you're talking like 6 million gap. And the Hoyland one, there was like a 20 million gap. And we had to actually obviously navigate that a lot. And obviously the same with Mason Mount. So for me personally, I just don't understand what's going on with it. I mean, it's extremely frustrating, as I'm sure we'll all agree. But I agree with Sani. It is on Ten Hag. I mean, I think obviously there are some things that obviously are out of his hands, absolutely. But you got to bear in mind, he has spent quite a lot of money. I mean, I think a lot of the players that have been massively overpriced, obviously that's not on Ten Hag, but could the money have been spent better elsewhere? Obviously, you look at West Ham and the way they've dealt with the Declan Rice money. I mean, they've been absolutely phenomenal. Alvarez, for me,
let's be honest, man.
Alvarez. I'm a big fan of him. You know, he's a former Ten Hag player, so it's on brand. Kudos, former Ten Hag player, on brand. Obviously, who was the other one? Mavropanos, obviously he's not. But
Ward-Prowse, I think they bought.
He's not on brand, of course. But that being said, I'm sure he would have been able to skirt around that one. But the point being is, look at the way they've spent their money. McAllister was available. Liverpool got him for 40 million. He would have done a great job in United midfield. I just don't understand why he went for Mason Mount so adamantly. I mean, for me, I think that Mason Mount is basically gonna be either he's gonna die, basically he's gonna, you know, obviously become a hero for bringing Mason Mount in, or that's gonna get him sacked, because a lot of our budget went on Mason Mount. I mean, obviously I know he wasn't the most expensive signing, of course Hoyland was, but 55 million on a player, and now he's in a scenario very early into his career, not blaming Mason Mount whatsoever, but where does he actually fit in? Like, does he fit in? I'm really hoping that, you saw under obviously Conte when he was at Chelsea and he had that slapping, I think it was against Spurs as well, it might be in Arsenal, I can't remember, against Arsenal I think it was, when they lost, and then he had that epiphany and he switched it up. I really hope Ten Hag has that similar epiphany for us and switches it up and eventually gets it right, because prior to when Conte actually made that change, Chelsea looked absolutely horrific. So look, a lot can change, I understand that, you can't get the midfield balance right, but I agree with Sani. He has to get it right, because at the end of the day, Mason Mount was his signing. He went big on Mason Mount. Take everyone outside the equation. For me, Mason Mount would not be my number one. We needed a controller, someone who can carry the ball from midfield, or someone of that ilk at least. I mean, we had Frankie de Jong speculation. We had Pogba and Fred. Mason Mount isn't any of them profiles. He's a completely different profile to any of them three. So at least replace one of them three. So obviously Frankie de Jong wasn't our player. Of course, we understand that. Pogba was our player. Fred was our player. They're very different, all three of them. And then he ended up buying a different profile to what we needed. So yeah, for me, that Mason Mount signing is going to basically make him or break him. So we'll have to wait and see. Very early to say, of course, but a lot of money spent. And hopefully for Manchester United's sake, and obviously us as fans, it comes to fruition and it's a good one. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. A lot of patience needed, but hopefully Kobe Manu is back sooner rather than later, should we say.
Yeah, apparently the signing of that keeper is going to be announced as well. Atla, is it? I think it is, something like that. You know what I mean? Hopefully, you know what I mean? I don't know much of him. I don't know if anybody's watched him, but, you know, I don't know much of him. Maybe, obviously, it comes down to a situation of, obviously, Onana's going to AFCON now. He's part of the Cameroon squad. So he'll be going for at least a maximum of 5 weeks should they get to the final and win it. So, you know what I mean? That's another little bit of a blow there. But obviously, he has to get back. There's nothing we can do in that regard. You know what I mean? He has to go back to his country. So, yeah, man. You know what I mean? It's something. I think United fans want to be positive, but you know, lately it's just been very, 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 very down the news, man. Like, it's not giving a lot of people optimism. You know what I mean? And that's the issue with my United now. It's not good reading, man. And that's where we're at the minute. You know, I mean, what's your hope, Cam, coming the last couple of days now? What's your kind of generic outlook? Have you got a prediction? Have you got, like, you know, what's your kind of feeling?
Well, it looks like we're going to get Cucurella in. I think that's not something I necessarily wanted, but I think it looks like from all the reports we're getting that's going to happen. We need really 2 midfielders desperately. If we get that, then I think we're in a bit of a better place. I
Asking
hope.
for a lot, mate.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can ask, and you can hope, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think the one thing I do want to say on Ten Hag, though, in terms of his talent ID and stuff, if he is having to fight really hard for every single player that he wants to sign, is he going to choose a player that he hasn't worked with before? Or when you're in a really difficult situation, you've got to get something approved by the board, and that puts extra pressure on you to make sure it's going to work and have the impact you want. I think in that situation, most people are probably going to go with something they know rather than something that's a bit more of an unknown quantity. So I think that probably plays into it as well, which is probably why we're linked with stuff. And again, with the Amrabat thing, there is no way Sofyan Amrabat is jeopardizing his entire career by not having trained with Fiorentina for weeks, not having been on the preseason tour, not having played games. He's sitting out, training by himself. The club have reduced his price, and United have agreed personal terms. That tells you the footballing side at United, the footballing hierarchy, want Amrabat. The sticking point is getting the money for the bid. Now, they've had player sales, a few of them, not that many. Fiorentina are pretty much doing all they can to get rid of him because it's clear he doesn't want to be there. Somebody at Manchester United is blocking that bid from going in. And the money is there. Don't let them fool you into that. That's coming from either the owners, because they've not heard of Amrabat. Remember, there was that thing where Joel Glazer wouldn't let Martial be sold under Mourinho because he thought he was United's Pele. So something's going wrong somewhere between the owners, Richard Arnold, and behind the scenes in that club that's stopping what we need to be doing. Yeah, stopping what we need to do.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I think, what was it say? Amrabat disrespect heavily. Yeah, listen, I think ultimately, it just depends on, you can't force a bit to happen, can you? It's the club have to find a way, and hopefully the manager's pushing it. I mean, I hope the manager's not looking at certain players and he's like, you know what, nah, we've got players here, or he's looking for cheap alternatives. Like for me, to
how
move
much
from
cheaper?
Amrabat,
20 million, man. Like 20 million, bro. Like, come on.
But the thing is, though, United do have the money. I don't believe that Man United don't have the money, though. I think this is the problem, though, guys. United do have the money for Amrabat. It's just whether they want to do it or not. And this is where it comes to. Every single time you need to do that last thing, we don't do it. We do it half-hearted. We're like, yeah, we'll back him half-hearted. But we won't do that last missing jigsaw. And that's United summed up.
Where's the sticking point, though? Because if they've agreed personal terms, Ten Hag's obviously told the player he wants him. The footballing hierarchy have obviously gone and negotiated those personal terms with him. Somebody's not signing off that bid being sent. So where is that coming from?
Yeah, it has to be from Joe Glazer. He's the man that, kind of, authorizes every single, signing. It's him. It has to be him. Or, you know what I mean? It's the worst scenario is that Ten Hag is looking at other options that he thinks it may be it. But I don't think they would do that and wait, Amrabat in the corner. I don't think they would do it because Amrabat must have got a kind of something from the manager or a call or something, because he's got links and he's there in Holland and he'll know people. He'll tell people, listen, stay there, we're coming. We're on our way. That would have been the message. But for some reason, it's not.
It'll be an indictment, though, Manchester United. Say if, he goes to another club, right? Because obviously Fiorentina don't want to keep him there. It'll be an indictment on how Manchester United is.
Napoli were touting around something like that.
I think he'll go Liverpool, bro. I'm not even, honestly, God, if he rocks up at Anfield, I won't be surprised.
That is an absolute shambles. If he goes to Liverpool,
throwing it out there now, they need someone like Amrabat can play in a 6 and an 8. Obviously, they got Endo. Sabazla's done really well so far, to be fair to the guy. But Amrabat in a 6, I mean, he could be an option for him. 20 million. I mean, it's a no-brainer for them as well. So I'm just, I won't be surprised if he's a Liverpool player. I genuinely wouldn't.
Well, I don't know, man. That would kill me, man. I think that would be the worst thing ever because then we're strengthening our rivals, innit? I mean, that's where
scoring against us as well.
Yeah, exactly. But quickly, let's go around. Sally, what's your outlook next couple of days? Same as Cam, what you said. What's your gut feeling? What's your gut feeling? Forget what Man United could give you. What's your gut feeling?
I don't think we sign anyone else other than, I mean, Cucurella's obviously, Fabrizio came out, was it tonight, didn't he, in saying it's agreed. I don't think we
Yeah.
sign anyone else. I would be shocked if we signed someone else. I'd be like, you know what, the club actually surprised me in a good way for once in the last, 15 odd years. But no, I don't think we sign anyone else, unfortunately. I've just got a feeling that's it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. We don't sign no more midfielders. Can you believe it? If Casemiro gets injured, we've got
We're,
McTominay.
bro, we're
Bro, guys, you don't
absolutely
understand it. Or
finished.
gets an injury.
The fact
It's
it's shit right
McTominay.
now. It's shit right now. Can you imagine if he gets injured on top? There's some serious issues, man. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
I think, Saeed, you're going to have to put your boots on and play in midfield for us. Like, seriously.
Oh, listen, man. These guys are there, man. Maybe waiting for Kobe Mino to come back. I don't know, man. That'd be crazy if you're waiting for him, 18-year-old, to come back, man, and show this Man United midfield up. That's wild, man. And this is the thing. This is why I keep saying, if Man United give Kobe Mino the opportunity to be Man United's number 6, why is everyone looking down on Alvaro Fernandez? This is my question. Because at the end of the day, yes, Kobe Mino's development is a bit more better, and people can say, but he was given again. The principle is he was given an opportunity. So that's why I'm like, if Kobe Mino's going to get opportunities and he becomes that next midfielder that we're wanting, then it comes like, why can't Alvaro Fernandez play? It's weird, but again, it's just something that I just find inconsistent,
We should
with the
have
fan
loaned
base.
Alvaro Fernandez outside. I mean, that's why I'm getting annoyed with the whole situation. I mean, for me personally, I think he's good enough to be at least a backup or not necessarily for Delo at left back. I mean, obviously they want to get Cucurella and whatever it is what it is. I don't personally agree with it. But that being said, if you don't trust Alvaro Fernandez to be a backup, why is he here? You're wasting this kid's ability to
Same
go
with
out on
Palestri.
loan
Same
and
with
get
Palestri.
minutes. I mean, same with Palestri again. Last season, again, blocked Zidane Iqbal's move in January only for him to not play a single minute. Why? Why are we doing that? That was on Ten Hag and the club. The club has absolutely no clue how to look after our players. I mean, look at the way Chelsea, for all we clown them, at least they let the players go out on loan. Obviously, if they're not good enough for Chelsea, they're selling for profit. We're not even doing that. We sold 2 of our young players for 1 million. And we bought one for 2 million, sold him for 1 million. I mean, what the hell is the club actually doing? So, for me personally, Alvaro Fernandez had a great season last year at Preston. Player of their season. For me, Championship is as physical as the Premier League, if not harder to be successful there. Played more games. He was absolutely flying in terms of his assists. His creative output was fantastic. I mean, a lot of people, I got family in Preston, they were singing his praises. I'm not to say I've watched a lot of Preston's game by me, but what I'm saying is he's played in the men's league last season and he's just absolutely tore it up. Yes, it's not the same standard, but you can't tell me he's not good enough in backup. He had a good pre-season as well. Yes, he had one poor game, but in general, he's done enough. He's done enough. Cucurella is not this world beater that we think he is. He's gonna rediscover his form at Brighton. Bro, we haven't got a system like that for him to come in and just flourish. Like, yeah, I don't know. I just think the club just makes mistakes after mistakes, in my personal opinion, anyways. And yeah, I mean, I agree with Sanya. I don't think we're going to bring in another player apart from Cucurella, which is an absolute travesty, but it is what it is, and what can you do? You're just going to have to roll up your sleeves and take the banter all season tight. It's like, get used to it, bro. It's going to be peak.
Yeah, listen, we have to buckle up, man, people. You know what I mean? We have to buckle up, and you know what? Let's see what United can do, man. Tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. That is the time left. What is that? 72 hours? You know what I mean? In all, 72 hours, and that could determine the season. Because you know what? It could determine the season. Because I want to finish as high as we can, and I want to catch Man City. I want to be able to get closer. I don't want to be 15, 20 points behind Man City. I want to try and level up and even away from home, I want to get better. But I'll be honest with you, you're not going to get better if you haven't got the added depth and the quality to do it. You know what I mean?
They've had a better window than us. Like, they're meant to be closing the gap, and they've had a way better window than us. They've literally brought in Kovacic, for me, who's massively underrated. I don't understand why people have overlooked him. He's one of the best press-resistant midfielders in the league. If you actually watch him, he's a great technician, great with both feet, great in tight spaces. He's exactly what we needed. We weren't even really interested.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not saying he would have picked us over City. Of course, he would obviously pick them. But the fact that we're not in for players like that is just baffling. Obviously, we ain't closing no gap on guys. If anything, it's going to get bigger, sadly.
before we wrap up, I think for me that's the probably the biggest indictment is that Manchester United were meant to close the gap, but they've actually extended the gap by getting better players than us. It's mad that when you think about it, it's actually quite. Yeah, it's not good enough, man. When you deep it, that is not good enough. We're meant to close the gap, but yet Man United have actually widened the gap by not bringing the added quality. It's very, very damning, man. Donny will save us.
Donny will
Man,
save
listen,
us.
man.
My last
Donny,
stock of
Donny,
Donny this week. That's
yeah. Yeah, listen. People, we're going to wrap it up here. Please, guys, if you are watching right now, I don't know why you haven't liked the video, but we'll remind you once again, people, it's the 730 of you in the chat. Only 400 likes, guys. Let's get up to 500. We always want a minimum of 500 likes on the video. Big up to Stephanie with the like count. But yeah, get up to 500. Appreciate the content. Big up to you, Cam, for stepping in, mate. Pleasure as always, mate.
Cheers. Good to be on.
Big up, man. Big up to Cam. Sally, big up to you, my guy.
No, thanks for having me on. Make sure, guys, to smash that like. It's a pleasure as always chatting football with the gentlemen. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And Osman, big up to you as always.
Yes. Thank you for having me, bro. Obviously, sorry I was late. But listen,
That's
as
cool.
Saeed said, it's free to flip it like. Obviously, come on, people. Let's get to 500. Subscribe to the channel as well. Show your boy love. He's bloody uploading every single flipping day, people. The grind is real. People don't understand the grind. Saeed's not going to say it, but I'm going to say it. Long hours, long days of content for you lovely people. It's flipping free. Subscribe. Stop alive, support your guy. He's doing it week in, week out, day in, day out. And United is still shit. So you got to factor that in as well.
Well, there you go.
You know, the mental strain
It's never
as well as
ending,
the
man.
physical one. But yeah, thank you.
United do well.
Pleasure, bro, man. Absolute pleasure, my guy.
No, I appreciate it, man. I was going to say, United do well on this channel hasn't been great, man. One trophy,
Inshallah,
I think, since I started this channel. Carabao Cup. That's why I was celebrating the Carabao Cup. When people say to me, I had to cherish that, man. That was the first trophy on the channel. So I was like, yo, we have to celebrate that, man. But guys, I'll be back 1 p.m. tomorrow for Northwest Divide with James Redmond. I'll see you there, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.